Hi! So, Dynamite is tonight, Maximum Carnage, and the card's actually already out, which is great again for me, so I can talk about everything that's already confirmed. So, without further ado, let's go through it. So, our first match on the card is a 4-way tag match for a title opportunity, I think, against FTR. I'm not 100% sure. Point is, it's a 4-way tag between the Bucks, the GOA, Jet Speed, and the new Don Callis family tag team, which is Mark Davis and the recently announced Jake Doyle, aka Jake something. I think this match is going to be incredible. I really can't wait for this one. If it's me, I think the obvious call is to have GOA win it. I think they've been nothing but deserving, but then also you're getting, because I don't think FTR dropped the belt this early. I think they're going to wait till Copeland and Christian Cage come back. So it's one of them. I think I would give it to Gates of Agony, but I want them to win it, and that's kind of the problem I've got. Then again, the heels. I think Jet Speed makes a good bit of sense because they've had a bit of feud with FTR before. Obviously, the Bucks have got the history, and the Bucks are fresh, hot, being baby faces again. And maybe they put Jake Doyle and Mark Davis on it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how those two compete and just interact with each other, to be honest. They're going to be brutal. I think if they don't have GOA win it, you set up a feud between those two. But then again, the Don Callis family and the Demand are in good terms, so maybe not. But I would love to see Toleona and Bishop Khan versus Mark Davis and Jake something. So that could be really good. I think Jet Speed will win it. But then again, the Bucks creates a bit more of an anticipation. But we've had the Bucks versus FTR so long. So it's like, well, for so many years. So it feels like I'm always going to be excited for it because it's always a phenomenal match. But you know what I mean? I would love GOA to get the title shot. But then again, I want them to win it. I think the match would be phenomenal. I really do. Looking forward to seeing Jake something debut, essentially. I'm really looking forward to that. But as a match, I think this is 4 of the best tag teams in the world. Truly, well, 3 of them, and then one that's probably going to be up there too, with just how they're being presented. GOA, again, I think GOA are phenomenal since becoming the Demand with Ricochet, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them, honestly, possibly steal the show. And the Bucks are the greatest tag team ever, in my opinion, so they're always going to show out, but I'm looking forward to this match a hell of a lot. So after that, we've got Darby Allin versus Pac. Now, this match will be a barn burner, to say the least. I'm surprised there's no stip. I think there should be a stip. I think it should be a no-holds-barred or a street fight or whatever, because Darby Allin. I think Darby will win. I don't think he should, though. I think Pac should win. I think it makes it a lot more interesting. This is the thing with Darby and the Death Riders. Is, okay, you need to get Darby away from the Death Riders sooner rather than later, because it's been going on for too long. But it's one of those where do you go with Darby? Because the only other option is the title picture, really, and there's no real feuds going on. I don't want Darby in the title scene. It doesn't feel right. And Pac's been on a phenomenal run. I'd reward them with the win. Not that Darby hasn't, but it feels like with Darby, he's just kind of always overcoming some shit. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like Pac winning here would be a lot more interesting because I think Yuta should have beat Darby too. I think that would have been the more interesting outcome. So I feel like if you prolong this a tiny bit longer, even though people are sick of Darby versus Death Riders, it makes sense. I don't know. I think this match would be great. I really do. I just expect. But this one specifically, I think if they really let it have the time, I think that's a big thing for me with this match. It needs the time. I feel like if it's under 20 minutes, it's not going to breathe. It needs time to breathe. It needs time to build. Because both of these guys, especially Pac, know how to basically conduct a match. So that's the big thing. That's what I'm really, really after in this match. Just a good amount of time and just a good build of the match itself. I think Darby will win, but I'd give it to Pac. I really would. I think that's the big shock and the big intriguing thing coming out of tonight. I think that would be the way to go, but whatever they do, Death Rider's going to be involved, obviously. Possibly a Gabe Kidd interference, maybe. But I think this match will be incredible. I really do. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. So, our next match is the Women's Trios match between the Babes of Wrath and Chris Statlander, so the Cosmic Babes of Wrath, versus the Triangle of Madness, Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart. I think Tekla will get the win. Specifically, Tekla gets the pin on Stat. I think that's going to be the big shock. As much as it makes sense for Statlander and Willow and Harley to win, they've got to set something up. And I think Tekla being the next challenger for the world title makes all the sense in the world, and it's definitely the right way to go. A big fan of Tekla, not a big fan of not a big fan of Julia Hart. I think Sky Blue just needs to separate and just go down her own route at this point. I feel like they gain nothing from being by each other at this point no more. But the Cosmic Babes of Wrath, I'm always going to be happy to see Willow and Stat on screen together. It's never going to get old for me, and I love Chris Statlander, so it's going to be a really fun match. I think, again, Tekla, I think the big takeaway will have to be Tekla getting the pin. I think Tekla has to get the pin, even if it's on Stat or whoever. I think being on Stat leads more naturally into the feud with Stat, and I think the Stat feud could be a really good one. Maybe not as good as Jamie's, but if you build it a bit longer, it could be a convincing, okay, we need to drop the belt to Tekla, which it's got to happen. So I'm not against that, and I think Tekla needs a lot more time. I feel like Tekla suffers from being with the Babes of Wrath a lot. So it's like, let's just get her on her own, not her own 2 feet, mind you, but, you know, let's just get Tekla active on singles instead of just the Sisters of Sin do stuff and she's like, oh, yeah, these are cool. It's like, fuck off. Just get Tekla. That's my biggest ask is, as much as I love Statlander, get Tekla the win. And then we can build onto something really cool because you've got the tag belts for a reason. And then you can also set up the Sisters of Sin versus Willow and Harley for the tag belts. So there you go. It makes more sense to have the heels win in this one. But mainly make sure Tekla gets the pin. That's my biggest ask. So after this, we're advertised Kenny Omega returns. Now, I don't know if Kenny will get a match. I think Kenny might. I think the obvious call is the Andrade thing. I think you got to have Kenny interact with Andrade in some way, or it's probably going to be Don. But specifically Andrade makes the most sense with Kenny or Josh Alexander. It has to be one of those two for me. But I think, and if it's Josh Alexander, it makes a lot of sense because you could have Josh cut one of his classic or new promos where he just stares at the camera like the Joker off the Dark Knight. So you could do that maybe. But Andrade feels like the one they built to last time before Andrade was NDA'd essentially, well, no competed essentially. So makes sense. I reckon you get Kenny in. You have him either build an Andrade match soon for next week, maybe, or possibly Josh Alexander. But you got to build it, you know, sooner rather than later. And, you know, Kenny's obviously being teased to go in the world scene against Max, which we'll talk about in a second. But with Kenny, you can't just put him in there. He's even said that in his promo. So you just got to get him up and rolling in the singles division again. So give him Andrade or give him Josh Alexander for me. There's the two you have to do. Just either one of those two. If not, I'm still interested. Obviously, it's Kenny Omega. But them two, they're the ones you got to go for me personally. And either way, I'm always going to be happy for Kenny to return. He's probably going to have a town hall where the crowd goes off its mind because who doesn't love Kenny? But I think it'll be Andrade. I think they'll try and want to have Andrade have a start on a hot like limelight thing. So who's bigger than Kenny really? So that's my prediction for the Kenny return segment. So our final match and our main event is one of the most anticipated matches I've had for a while. I was going to say of the year, obviously the year. It's MJF versus Bandido for the world title. I am expecting, frankly, one of the best matches of the year already. I cannot wait. I think you've got your biggest heel going against your biggest face, debatably, in the company. It's Max is going to win. It's the first defense. But if Bandido does a natural Bandido thing and gets people to believe he wins, oh my god. Like, there's nothing up with that. Bandido being in the world scene, this cannot be the end of it. Do we get something with Brody? Maybe at the end. Maybe Brody turns at the end of the show. I hope not. I think that's got to be a question that we've got to ask. But I think Max gets the win. The match will be incredible. The match will truly be incredible. There's no bigger match than this tonight. If this isn't match of the night, I'm going to be heartbroken. Because the guys both know how to just have matches. You look at, and obviously it sounds stupid, but you look at MJF's match against Mystico, both of them, and he knows how to wrestle luchadors. And Bandido, look at his matches against Takeshita, Hechicero, Okada, anyone. They're unbelievable. The guy knows how to wrestle. This just screams instant classic. And I hope it's not the end of Bandido in the world scene. The biggest question I have is, what do we do with Brody after it? Because they've obviously been saying a lot, Brody's getting the title shot if Bandido wins. I don't think Bandido wins, so does Brody front MJF or does Brody turn on Bandido for not winning? I hope to God not. I really do. I think that's the biggest thing that can really upset me. But I think it's on. I think it's definitely a viable option. But the match itself, I mean, God, I cannot wait. I truly cannot wait. And I get excited for a lot of wrestling matches, obviously, but I feel like there's a very fair few that, you know, obviously get you going like, oh my god. This is near that level, and I think the closer it gets to, the more I think about it, it definitely gets to that level. So truly, these are two of my favourite wrestlers in the world. I think they're two of the best wrestlers in the world, and it just screams instant classic. I can't say any much. This is going to be truly incredible. Honestly, I cannot wait. So that's everything announced. Do we get much more else that we don't know about so far? I hope we get something to do with Kyle and Dom backstage again. I think you got to kind of follow that up, maybe. Maybe some stuff promoting Collision. You know, probably some Eddie Kingston and Ortiz versus GYV backstage segments, shit like that. You know what I mean? Because it's Maximum Carnage. They'll want to build on the Maximum Carnage for Collision this week too. I mean, Jack Perry feels like a natural one. Ricochet, you know, I feel like that makes sense. Ricochet and Jack Perry announcing them out for Collision, that could be cool. But overall, they don't really need to do much. They've got MJF versus Bandito, for fuck's sake. Like, that's all I need. So, I cannot wait. But, Kenny being... I normally predict, like, the Elite to show up. They're already on the show, so if we get a backstage segment with them, that could be cool. But I don't care. And the only thing I do think we'll get is a Brody and Bandito segment backstage before the match, because why not? Makes sense. And if they're going to do the turn, again, please no. Makes sense. So yeah, that's my predictions for Dynamite Maximum Carnage tonight. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen, and how highly are you anticipating the MJF versus Bandito? Because I cannot wait. It's going to be so good, and I swear if they turn Brody heel, you're going to see tears.